All right, happy Friday, folks. As you get prepared to write your two rhetorical analysis paragraphs, I wanted to give some quick reminders on how we create and develop analytical claims and how those analytical claims help open and begin our paragraphs, okay? So remember, the first step to writing an analytical claim is to characterize an author's choice, right? So one that I picked out is throughout Lincoln's speech, he continually makes it seem like the war is the problem, not the North or the South, right? So in order to create this vision of unity, he keeps positioning the war as the enemy. That's one that I kind of found that I thought was important. Then when I get to step two, I want to make a connection to the audience. So, my first step, I said throughout Lincoln's speech, one of the patterns of choices Lincoln makes is positioning the war as a shared enemy of the nation, right? So, in step two, I want to make a connection to my audience. Quite a few of us are missing this connection to audience in our analytical claims. We've got to say how this impacts the audience. You all told me yesterday in study hall that the audience was the North and the South. Remember, this is a war torn nation, right? Literally, people in America are fighting each other. Before we were fighting other people, but now we're literally fighting each other, right? That's crazy. So when I think about that, why would you want to make it seem like the war is the enemy and not the North or the South? Because maybe together they can come together and say, okay, I want to end the enemy, and that's the war. That's not my brothers in the North and my brothers in the South. That's just this thing that we've started. So look at my step two. In positioning the war as the true enemy, Lincoln doesn't absolve either party of guilt, but rather attempts to create peace between them by arguing that neither party is each other's true enemy. So by saying actually you all are not the problem, but the war is the problem, right? He's appealing to his audience. Then after step three, of course, I have to make a connection to purpose, right? So how does this tie back to Lincoln's overall goal of putting the nation back together, right? Unifying this war-torn nation. So I'm going to say by positioning the concepts of war as the true enemy, Lincoln is able to redirect any animosity or ill will either side is facing, right? So by saying that the war is the enemy, they're not going to be upset with each other. They're not trying to get revenge. They're not trying to be mad. They're not trying to fight with each other. They're trying to fight against the war and how to end it. So that's how it connects back to his purpose, right? If they don't have ill will towards each other, he can keep pushing out a message of unity. Remember, step four is just to include where you see the evidence, right? And we see that happening in paragraphs 2 and step 3. And then I put all that good stuff together, right? So the positioning of the war, I put all that together, and I should end up with, let's just do some highlighting, right? There's my choice. So that's got to make it into my analytical claim. This piece here attempts to create peace and absolve them from feeling guilt. That's got to fit in there. It shows that he understands. And then, what has happened to my little slides? There we go. Then this idea of like redirecting bad feelings they have towards each other, that should probably make it to my analytical claim because that's pretty important connection back to purpose. And then, of course, I just need to use paragraphs 2 and 3. Let's see what we got. Starting in paragraph 2 and building into paragraph 3. So see, I'm creating a connection there. Lincoln positions war as the real shared enemy of both the North and South in an effort to redirect their animosity and create peace between them. So I named here step 4. I know we do step 4 last, but then it's really the first thing that goes in your statement, right? So there's step 4. I'm just going to highlight that in red. Then there's the rhetorical choice. That is step 1. I'm going to highlight that in blue. And then the redirecting of animosity. That is to my audience, right? We don't feel bad. Step 3, creating peace between them. That's the connection, the redirecting the animosity is step 2. That's my audience, connection to audience. And then step 3 is create peace between them. I'll highlight that in yellow. Remember, analytical claims are the start of our paragraphs. They can go at the top, right? If you did one last night for homework, you might have said, in the first half of Lincoln's speech, and you might have mentioned two choices, right? Because that's the beginning of your paragraph. Now, once you've done your analytical claims, you got to introduce your evidence and you actually got to analyze and talk about that evidence. That's what I'm going to show you next. So I selected the quote where he said, one of them would make war rather than let the nation survive. The other would accept war rather than let it perish. And then war came. Remember, we talked about this in class as being this really great contrast to show both of y'all made a bad choice, but no one is more to blame than the other, right? Both parties had an opportunity to do something different, and both of y'all decided to allow war to happen. So my first step in developing my analysis or my commentary is just to go ahead and embed my evidence in a sentence. We don't drop long quotes. That is disgusting. We never do that. That is not great writing, right? So the first thing that we do is we embed it in a sentence. So in the second paragraph, Lincoln says one side would, and that's how we can embed that evidence. Now, me, honestly, I could have done an even better job in this and even worked to maybe shorten this a little bit, right? Like, and maybe more so describe it. So there's opportunities there too, but make sure that you at least intro the evidence as opposed to just plopping it down. Then the next thing that we do when we're giving our commentary is we make that connection back to audience and purpose, right? What makes this choice effective? Why did you write about it? If you wrote about it, it's worthy of analysis, right? You knew it made a direct appeal to an audience or it connected back to purpose. So look, with these words, Lincoln personifies the nation and uses the words survive and perish to demonstrate how it has been threatened. The last three words, the war came, show, however, the war came on its own and is by no fault to either side. That piece, by no fault to either side, that shows that connection to audience, right? It makes the audience feel like, okay, it's not on me. Whew, that's not my fault. Now, maybe, just maybe, I want to work with these Northerners if I'm a Southerner, or I want to work with these Southerners if I'm a Northerner, because I realize, right, that it's not really either body's fault, it's anyone's fault or either party's fault. It is the fault of the war, right? And I could also add a sentence here about how this kind of comparison helps. Will help if I could spell comparison. Or let's just say this contrast helps Lincoln build unity between the North and the South by allowing each one to feel like it is not their fault. And that's how we build out our paragraphs, right? We have our analytical claim, we have our evidence, we have our analysis. That's chunk one. Now, in order to make my rhetorical analysis paragraph pop, I would need to introduce another piece of evidence, right? And complete the same process because the rhetorical analysis paragraphs has two chunks. That means it has two rhetorical choices and an analysis for each of those choices. Get busy on your work today. If you have any questions, shoot me a text.